Hello everyone, it's me, Chopta, back at it again with another video. Today, I decided to combine two of my favorite pastimes. One more recent than the other, but nonetheless something I really love. Being Pokemon, which, shocker, I know, and Dungeons and Dragons, which I have not shown on this channel yet. These two pastimes of mine came ahead when a separate YouTuber by the name of Mr. Bonnie John created a series where he combined Pokemon with D&D, crafting a story and doing excellent drawings of characters and creatures based on Pokemon. And I looked at that and thought, hey, I like that idea. I'm going to try something similar. I'm going to create one character for every D&D class, that being 13, and just spare a bit about them. I'm not giving them a backstory or anything, because I don't have, okay, I do have time to write backstories, but I don't have time to write a backstory for every character that's unique, that I like, etc, etc. What I'm trying to do here is capture both the lore of the Pokemon, according to the Pokédex, alongside fitting them with D&D lore mechanics, and just picking ones that I like, rather than it is picking the best Pokemon for said class. I can't avoid some of those obvious things, like a bit of a spoiler, fighting is most definitely a fighter. I still try my best to be somewhat unique and come up with ones that I think make sense. Finally, before we start, feel free to do your own. Feel free to make your own party in the comments or maybe your own video. And subscribe. Alright, long-winded intro out the way, let's get into this. To start us out here, let's get one of the fan favorites of the newest generation, Tinkaton, who is our artificer for today. In terms of D&D, Tankyton is a dwarf battlesmith artificer, meaning that they are short, which does fit with the Pokemon's original design, along with creating weaponry, and in the battlesmith particularly also a companion, but that's not really attributed here. Now the main reason I chose Tinkaton is that it makes its own hammer, using scrap metal, and I'm saying scrap metal in quotation marks because it's actually a carcass. The hammer is noticeably giant, as it should be, basically being a mole, which is imbued with magic, since that's what artificers do, they imbue items with magic. And fairy is a stand-in for magic. As for the stats, the highest is intelligence, not only for the artificer thing, but also because it takes big brain to not only make a hammer, but also pinpoint accurately shoot a coordinate out of the air. Then strength, as it is able to hold that 220-pound hammer with ease, which for people like me that don't know what that is on top of the head is roughly 99.8 kilograms. Wisdom, dexterity, con, and charisma. These are really chosen arbitrarily, somewhat based on the stats. For the Barbarian, we got another new one from Scarlet and Violet, being the big fish itself, Dondozo. Or, in this one, Dunzo Odin. Lokanath, Path of the Giant Barbarian. Now, Lokanath should be self-explanatory. It is a fish. I was originally thinking Triton or Sea Elf, and I remembered that there is just a fish class. Or, not, why is it class? Until I remember there is just a fish race, so I went with that. And Path of the Giant makes sense considering this thing is like almost 40 feet tall. Now the reasoning I chose this for Barbarian is because it is characterized as being extremely strong, but dim-witted, which is a quintessential Barbarian. As for the stats, Constitution is high, as this thing has a base 150 health, followed by Strength, obviously, and Charisma, Wisdom were chosen arbitrarily. Dexterity is the second lowest, as it is very slow with base 35 speed, but Intelligence is even lower because the Pokédex literally calls it a dumbass. A bit of an oddball pick for Bard, if I do say so myself, but that's what I'm trying to go for. We have Lilligant. Now, bards are usually very much associated with music, not so much dance. Bards can do anything creative, and have that be the base of their magic. This is sort of combining modern day Unnovan elegant with older Hisuian elegant, as modern times is more of like a pretty princess, whereas past it was a proper dancer. But regardless, Legil Antali is a College of Eloquence bard, Fearbolg. That does not make a lot of sense, but if memory serves correctly, that's the one that speaks with plants, so that's the closest I can get. Yeah, so as I explained, the dancing is what's really driving the bard aspect here. Also, do you know that the flower on its head, if it encounters a mate, that flower will wilt and just die off? It's already there for decoration to find a mate, and then it goes. Very sad. So charisma and wisdom are the two highest. Of course, being a bard, but also frost type. They need to have their survival skill. They need to be aware of their surroundings. Dex and con are a 12 and a 10, because they're not as important, but they're still there. But in strength and intelligence, there's something interesting there. You could either get 8 or 13 for either, and that is if you choose to play this close to Hisuian elegant or Unnovan elegant. Unnovan would take the intelligence and lose the strength, whereas Hisuian would do the opposite. Arguably the strongest concept I have, we have Volkava Roner, who is taking our role as a light domain cleric, and also a 3 Kreen, which is a modern race that I'm glad they added. Otherwise I'd have nothing for any bug types. So the story of this Pokemon is that they were worshipped in ancient times as a sun deity. So, what if we just take that deity worshipping and apply it to the Pokemon itself? Boom! Instant cleric, worships the sun, worshipped a sun god. Its highest stats are wisdom and intelligence, as Pokemon's been around for a long time. It will know a fair amount and will be fairly wise. Or 13 in Dex, so it's very fast. And then Charisma comes next, because while a lot of people do hate it and see it as the start of forest fires, bush fires, etc., others revel the thing and, as I said before, worship it, as it would bring heat amongst the cold. And then Con of Strength, because it doesn't have much HP or physical attack. Moving on, Druids are all about nature, becoming animals, and being at peace with it. Now, anyone else would look at that and pin that as a grass type, or fairy type for that matter, because why would you not? Why would you not do something like that? It's when you're me and make Zoru Karchaos the Circle of the Moon Druid Tabaxi based on a Zoroark. Specifically Unnovan Zoroark. Hisuian doesn't have anything that I'm going for here. But speaking of that, why the hell am I going for Zoroark outside of anything else that makes sense? Well, because the main gimmick of Druids is their wild shape. The ability to transform into animals. No, I was not going to pick Ditto for this. Hear me out with Zoroark. Why I chose Zoroark over, say, Ditto is because, according to many Pokédex entries, it likes to keep its den protected. Its den, more often than not, being a forest. Therefore, it guards the forest with their illusions and transforms into other beings. Sort of like a druid. Obviously, its intelligence is high, as you need to be big brain in order to trick people. With charisma also being high, as Zoroarks are shown to be freaking bastards. Dex and strength are fairly high as well, because they're very fast and attack hard. With wisdom and con taking the lower ends here. Can you guess what type of fighter would be? That's right, psychic. But also fighting. It's Gallade. Now, at the time of recording, I don't have it set for what race this Gallade would be. It could theoretically be any human-ish race. So, what you're seeing right now is what I decided over mulling it over for like probably 5 minutes. Galleon Dell is a Psi fighter. I mean, this one sort of just fell into my lap. One of the subclasses is a psychic fighter, and we have Gallade, who is quite clearly a psychic fighter. Why I chose Gallade over literally every other fighting type is because playing to both aspects of a fighter, being the big guy who can punch someone good, and tactical swordsman that can slice down their opponents. Obviously, its strength and intelligence are its two highest stats. Strength more so, as once you hit Gallade, you're going into that physical attack more than your special, but you still have that left over from when you rolled for earlier. And then Charisma and Dex. Charisma, Dex, Con, Wiz, all fairly chosen arbitrarily, with the lowest of them being Wisdom, just to set apart from God of War, who would have higher Wisdom. Oh, but we are not done with fighting, because we got Monk now. And once you know it, we got our first of 2 starters in this video. Hooray for us. Furnace Apelyth is either Wave to 4 elements with a specialty towards fire, or Sun Soul Hadozi Monk, based on Infernape. Obviously, you're going to have a fast physical striker to be a monk. That's just how it works. And of my favorite Pokemon, Infernape was just quick and easy, already done, just nail it in. Obviously, its two highest stats being dexterity and strength for its attack speed and attack power. Its attack speed, according to Pokédex, being unrivaled. And wisdom, charisma, intelligence, shows an arbitrarily, and then con for its lower defenses. It's very much a glass cannon. Well, we are still not done with starters, and not even done with Gen 4 starters, because for the Paladin, we have Torten Rarth, an Oath of the Ancients Paladin Turtle, based on Torterra. Why I chose Torterra over a Pokemon that fit better is because I really like a gentle giant for a Paladin, and Torterra just encapsulates that really well. And not to mention the Oath of the Ancients, referring to both Torterra being based on the World Turtle, but also Oath of the Ancients is heavily associated with plant life. As for its stats, obviously you got to have that beefy con for its defenses, with a higher wisdom and strength for its natural expertise and its physical power, with dexterity being the lowest because it's a big turtle, it doesn't move much, and charisma intelligence chose arbitrarily. Moving into everyone's favorite race to not like, we've got Ranger. I chose Gliscor to be a Ranger, specifically Gulis Corvin, a Gloomstalker Ranger that's a winged tiefling. Simply put, Gliscor is an ambush predator that can just survive in the harshest environments. Strictly sandstorms, not like hail or anything. In hail it just dies, but it can go through deserts. It's almost like it was preferred terrain or something. Stats, it's got highest in dexterity because it's very it's very fast, followed by wisdom and strength because of its ambush senses and overwhelming power. Then intelligence, con, chosen arbitrarily, and charisma is the lowest because it murders things. It's an ambush predator, you're not going to have a chat with it. Oh, but speaking of ambush predators, for Rogue we have Novir Noisers, a Sapphire Dragonborn based on Noivern. Now, why did I choose Noivern? Well, because, and I quote the Pokédex here, nothing can beat them in a battle in the dark. Even Hydreigon fears fighting Noivern in the dark. Can you name a D&D class that would excel being in the dark where no one can see you, where you can ambush and stealthily kill them? Plus, being perfectly honest, the concept of a rogue who has the ability to make a really, really loud noise, like Noivern, is just funny to me. Very high dex as its highest stat, followed by intelligence, as you obviously need that when you're a predator like that. And wisdom is con, chosen somewhat arbitrarily. And then charisma goes up higher than strength, even though it would be strong. This because if given berries, not everyone are just generally chill guys or girls. I don't know the gender ratio, don't sue me. So, sorcerers, right? They just get born with magic, just born with powers. But most Pokemon are already like that. So what I did is I said screw it and just picked my favorite elemental animal. My favorite of which being Electivire. Or Elkiti Virus, a storm sorcerer bugbear. Of course, being a big, monstrous, hairy thing, bugbear suits it very well. I do say so myself. And also, Electivire is like one of the strongest, at least regular electric types. Once you get to legendaries, you get like Zekrom who shoots plasma, and Zekrom who shoots plasma. I digress. Wisdom is the highest here because of its electric power, followed by its strength, as via big beefy boys. Which is also why dexterity is next. They're also fairly quick. Followed by charisma, con, intelligence. I don't see Electivire as very smart. I see it as a big funny tiger that I really like. And speaking of things I really like, Warlock has, I'm not even just going to showcase it, my favorite Pokemon of all time. Golarth Lurkle, the undying Warlock Warforged Golurk. Golurk, lore-wise, works leagues better as a paladin. But why I choose him? So why I choose him for Warlock? Well, for one, in like my top 50 Pokemon, I saw a better candidate for paladin than Warlock if I used Golurk for either. Also, Golurk is one of few ghost types that gets their power from a different thing, being a sort of unknown energy that allows every Golurk to still be alive. It has to be sealed up because it's too powerful. And that's why it gets dying, because it can't die. It's sort of redundant on a Warforged because they're robots, they don't need to breathe or eat or sleep anyway. And for its stats, it has the highest in Constitution and Strength as it's giant and strong. Then having Wisdom, of course, as you need that. And Charisma, as it will obey its master's orders even from thousands of years later. And Intelligence and Dex were, you guess. Dexterity is an 8, but it has no trouble moving around. It can turn to a jet, really. Last but not least, we have the Wizard. Now, pray tell, what type do you think a wizard could be? The biggest brain of them all. Why, surely there would be a bug type, right? Yeah, no, it's a psychic type. It's Xatu, or Xantul, which is a school of divination Aarakocra wizard. I chose this over some other options I was considering, like Slowking or freaking Mewtwo, because I chose the best Pokemon for one of the schools. And for divination, Xatu was one of the most obvious picks outside of Gothitelle, who would just be a human. I chose the birds that always sees into the future and past at the same time. Obviously, because of its bright powers, its intelligence and wisdom are its highest stats, followed by charisma, and constitution arbitrarily, strength because it's not a very strong Pokemon, and dexterity because it literally stands still all the time. And so that was a D&D party based on Pokemon. Again, feel free to make your own video or leave in the comments what you would choose for each. Maybe give you a reasoning. Who knows, maybe you'll even read some of them. But, as always, catches.